The views of this biography are satirical. Please disregard any falsified information. Hugh Jackman was a typical Earthman. He was hatched as a pupa and grew on to become a prominent larva. During his days of boyish frivolity, he went to college, where he studied journalism. Then, completely disregarding those 4 years of college he just paid for, he then spent even more money to go to a performing arts school, never looking back on his past enrollment in a school for the grammatically gifted. Then he decided to take on the role of a rootin'-tootin' cowpoke in his college's production of Oklahoma. This proved successful, and after seeing said success, he was pleased with himself, and took a long 24-hour nap. When he arose from his excessively masculine slumber, an epiphany hit him. What if I were to put this knowledge to good use? I mean my aspirations of being an actor, not the sensible career choice. And just like that, he decided to punch the living daylights out of Dougray Scott and told him to go work on a Mission Impossible 2 for another 2 months. And then promptly sprouted genuine adamantium claws from his knuckles and extorted the casting director into submission to get Scott's old role. This too proved successful. And even though the X-Men was in fact the most atrocious thing to ever happen to the film industry, the very presence of Hugh Jackman's angry demeanor was enough of a subliminal aura that everyone killed over with excitement and remained unconscious for the remainder of the movie, vaguely aware of the fact that he was still on screen. This brought the viewers pleasure beyond all human potential. The undeniable genius of this movie made him outrageously lustful, and sought out a woman to bear children with. So he went back in time to 1995 to meet women and speak with his past self about which babes he could score with. He saw one that made him giddy with ravenous excitement, and drugged an unsuspecting Deborah Lee Furness, took her back to his house, and convinced her that she was his wife, in an act not unlike Kurt Russell's Overboard, which is inconspicuously Hugh Jackman's favorite movie. However, he learned much to his, or rather a poor former collegiate's, demise, that whenever he attempted to mate, the sheer feeling of honor and gratitude to be on the receiving end of that is enough to make you and everyone in the room who isn't Hugh Jackman violently convulse for 8 minutes, and then are consequently, sucked into the vacuum of space by forces unknowns. Of course, because of the manner of how he had achieved his bride, he had no idea how proud she should have been for being able to be in his house for over 20 minutes at a time without being ripped to shreds by his factual claws, let alone be married to the man. However, the drawback was that on Hugh Jackman's end, the irradiating power of his ego rendered her ovaries useless, so she can never have children. Hugh Jackman wouldn't have any of this, so during filming for X-Men, he suddenly lashed out at the cast, crew, director, and producer, and walked out of the studio, not without throwing the catering company through the wall, and went to the nearest adoption clinic, where he swiftly stole 18 babies, recklessly stuffing them into a large sack. 18 out of 20 melted from sheer, overwhelming happiness that is being near Hugh Jackman. Of the 2 that survived, he found one currently worthy of his time, and sends another forward in time into his wife's womb in 2005 so she can continue to believe that she is really normal, and everything is as Hugh Jackman says it is. While Hugh Jackman was busy creating more time paradoxes, he accidentally brought an entire recording crew and all-star cast back to the vampire-filled 1800s, and killed and absorbed his soul and gained all of the powers of Van Helsing. He then demanded that the recording crew filmed his quest to claw the living daylights out of vampires, and cause more time paradoxes to bring more classic Gothic literature characters to his present time period to make this live-action movie more interesting. But just as they were finishing up filming, he screamed at the top of his lungs to trigger another time jump. However, this destroyed some of the best parts of the film, and killed the better half of the cast and crew. Upset with his mistake, he ordered an editing crew to make the film great with the footage he had. Of course, man can only do so much. That's where Hugh Jackman came in. He mainly just yelled at them louder to make it better, and at times just pushed them aside and said quite factually that he could do better on hard drugs. So he grabbed the nearest drug dealer by the throat and forced him to give up all of his drugs. He promptly absorbed them just by staring at them, and proceeded to edit the film. The end product is the film that you know of today. The original editors are still crying in fear, wondering if they're going to be beaten senselessly by an unforgiving Hugh Jackman. Still not satisfied with the use of his claws, he leaped forward into the future and demanded that his studio make another X-Men movie. This one all about him. They agreed out of shame and fear to find actors with stones large enough to look him in the eye. This was impossible. So they gave all the actors contacts that completely blacked out their vision so that they wouldn't have to pass out from the shock after staring into his eyes. However, they were able to find someone with a bloodthirst as great as Hugh Jackman's. Liev Schreiber. And the scene where they fight in the barn, that was actually a battle to the death. Hugh Jackman won. However, once again, Hugh Jackman had to absorb all of the drugs and do another editing job to make it look like Liev Schreiber could manage through the rest of the movie. The result was the best job of CGI ever. Hugh Jackman currently resides in his home, the Fortress of Solitude, which he evicted Superman from for looking at him funny. On weekends, he throws classy, cocaine-laden parties at Batman's mansion. He's currently number 1 through 10 in FBI's top 10 most wanted list, but nobody's ever caught him.